Good evening, all of you. Today it is day 3. So, in day 3, we will go and discuss in a day 2. We are already discussed about how we'll go and write the Python program and how we'll go and execute the Python program in a command line as well as a user interface like Jupyter and PyCharm. And we are in a day 2. We are already discussed about indentations in the Python and followed by comments. How we'll go and use the comments in Python. So these are the topics we are discussed in day 2. Now in this day 3, we will go and discuss about identifiers. Python identifiers. Okay, let us start today. We'll go and discuss about how we are going to declare the identifiers and variables in Python. So what is identifier? So identifiers are names of the variables or variables are names of the identifiers. So it is a user defined names. So the user defined names are identifiers in Python. So the identifiers are user defined names or the variable names are user defined names. So that may be a variables, functions, classes, modules and all. So that will be all we are going to declare using a user defined names. So identifiers are names of the variables or variables are names of the identifiers. So the identifier names are user defined names. So we have to use some of the rules for writing of identifiers or variables. So what are the rules for writing of identifiers and variables? We will go and discuss in this class. So first one, the identifier names must not begin with a digit. So the identifiers, it may contain lowercase letters or uppercase letters, or it contains 0 to 9 digits, and it contains underscore symbol. So but according to the rules of writing of identifiers, so the identifier names must not begin with a digit. So you don't use a for writing of a identifiers or variables, so that cannot be start with a numbers or digit. So that is the first rule you have to follow for writing of identifiers as well as variables. And second one, a Python identification cannot be just a string of characters. So the Python identifier cannot just be a string of digits. So it cannot be a number. So it cannot be a simple number. So it contain small a to small z, and capital A to capital Z, and 0 to 9, and it contain underscore. But the identifiers cannot be a strings of digits. And third one, the name of Python identifiers can begin with an underscore symbol. So according to the Python rule for writing of identifiers, so it will be begin with the underscore symbol, but it cannot be begin with a digit. But the identifiers or variables can be begin with the for writing of a underscore symbols. And next one, the length of the identifier name is unrestricted. So that means that you can write any length of the identifiers or any length of the variables. So there is no restricted. There is no restricted in Python. So whereas in other programming language, so the identifier must be 8 characters or 16 characters and so on. So whereas in Python there is no such type of restrictions for writing of identifiers or variables in Python. So next one, Python identifiers have a case sensitive names. So for example, what is a case sensitive? For example, if I writing a identifiers is small abc. So I am writing identifier is small abc is equal to 10. but at the time of using of my identifier or variable, so you don't use as a capital letters. You don't use as a capital letters in our program. So why? Because every identifier is a case sensitive names. So that means small abc is different and capital ABC are different. So why? Because Python identifiers have case sensitive names. So these are the rules you have to follow for writing of identifiers. So first one, it should be begin with underscore symbol. So after that you can use uppercase letters, or after that you can use lowercase letters, or after that you can use numbers. But the identifier must not begin with a number, but must not begin with a number, and it does not can't be just a string of digits. So, and similarly the identifier name, length of identifier name is unrestricted. So that means we have to use any length of the variables. So let us see what are the identifiers, valid identifiers and invalid identifiers. So these are the examples. So these examples are valid identifiers. So why? Because the first one, AB 10C. So AB 10C. So it is a valid identifiers. So according to the Python identifier rule, we may use string characters also. It may start with the character also, but it cannot be start with a number. The first letter cannot be a number. So it can be a digit, sorry, it can be a character or it can be underscore. But in this example I'm using AB10C is a valid user, a valid identifier. So next one, ABC underscore DE. So it contains a small abc underscore and capital DE, and it is also a permitted identifier in Python. And underscore, so underscore as a starting character. So you can use underscore for writing of a identifiers. For example, underscore ABC. So it is a valid identifiers. So these all are valid identifiers. So according to the Python identifier rules. And now coming to invalid identifiers in Python. So 99. So the identifier cannot be start with a number. So that's why it is an invalid identifier. And next one, 9ABC. And again it will be start with a number. So that's why it cannot be valid identifiers in Python. And next one, x plus y. So but you don't use a plus operators. You will be use underscore symbol. So that's why this will be invalid identifiers. And for, so for is a keyword. For is a keyword in a programming language. So you don't use a keywords as a identifiers in a programming. So any programming you don't use a identifiers in a identifiers. So you don't use the keywords as a for writing of identifiers or variables. So that's why these all will be invalid identifiers. So according to the Python rule, these all will be invalid identifiers, and above are valid identifiers in Python. So next one, how do you know if a string is a valid identifier or not? So if you want to know whether you are entering a identifier is valid or invalid, then you have to use a function name is called isIdentifier function. So by using that isIdentifier function, then will we know whether the variable or identifier is a valid or not. So if it is a valid, then it will go and return output is a true. If it is a invalid, it will go and return output is false. So for example, I will open the Jupyter notebook. So for example, I will open the Jupyter notebook. So now uh, in this Jupyter notebook, I type a print followed by ABC. So ABC and followed by is identifier. So whether I want to check it whether this is a valid identifier or not, then it will go on to showing if output is a true. So if it is printed output is a true, then you can say that it is a valid identifier. And next one, underscore ABC. So this will be also permitted in Python. So that's why the output will be also display as a true. So for example, I will enter one more identifier. So that is a print, and followed by I will write here 99. So 99, I want to check it whether it is a valid identifier or not by using a identifier function. So now we have to run this. So now I have drawn this. Now see here. So for the thought statement, it is a invalid identifiers. Why? Because it will go written a false. So why? Because according to the identifier rules, you don't use numbers, starting numbers. So let us check it. You can use underscore symbol and run once again. Now see here, you are using a starting one is the underscore symbol and followed by numbers. Then it is a valid identifiers in Python. I hope you'll be understanding what I am saying. So with the help of a is identifier function, then you want to know whether the identifier is a valid or invalid. So if it is a valid, it will go and return true, or if it is a invalid, then it will go and return false. So that is about a function. So by using that function, you want to know whether it is a valid identifier or not. For example, in a fourth statement, I am using a for loop. I am using a for keyword and followed by is identifier. So then it will go and return true. So it is a wrong output actually. So it will go and return false. So why? Because for is a keyword in Python. So let us compile this code. So for just I will use a for here. So let us check it whether it is a valid or not. So it will be showing valid. So but actually the for is not a invalid identifiers. So it will showing a true. So it is a wrong output. So according to the rule, you don't use the keywords. So if it is a keyword will be comes under Python, then definitely it is a wrong. It will go and display false. Otherwise, it will go and display the valid identifiers. So next one is variables. So how will go and declare the variables in Python? I hope you'll be understanding what I am saying. So if you have any doubts, please post your queries in the chat box. So if you have any doubts, please post your query in the chat box. So I will try to answer later. Now coming into variables in Python. So what is the difference between a variable and identifiers? So identifiers are just simple names. Identifiers are names of the variables, whereas variables are names of the identifiers. The difference between identifiers and variables is that the identifier does not have any memory location, whereas variables it refer to the memory. So that means the value will be stored into the memory location. So in this example, for example, I am writing identifier A. So A is an identifier. Whenever we are going to assign value to the A, so then identifier will become as a variable. I hope you are understanding what I am saying. So A is a identifier. So whenever I am going to assign a value to the identifier, then it will then it will become as a variable. So if it is an identifier, it does not have any memory location. If it is identifier, it does not have any memory location. So why? Because there is no value for the identifiers. So whenever you can assign value to the identifier, so then the identifier will become as a variable. So then the value of A, which will be going to store into the memory location. So that's why a memory region is referred to as a variable in Python. A memory region is referred to a variable in Python. Why? Because variables, the value of the variables can be stored into the memory location. So that's why it is called as a memory region is referred to as a variable in Python. So whereas if you declare the identifier like a, so it is not a memory region. So it's simple a, it's simple a, it is identifier. So whenever you have to assign some value to that identifier, so then the value of that identifier can be stored into the memory location. So that's why the difference between identifier and a variable is called identifier does not have a memory location, whereas variables it contain a memory locations. So whereas in C language also, in C language will be also used like this. So int and followed by a, int and followed by a and a semicolon. So a is the identifier. So whenever you have to assign some value to that a, then it will go that value will be stored into the that value, it will go and allocate the 2 bytes for a, and it will go and store 10 into the memory location. So in C language you have to write the identifier followed by data type followed by identifier name. So whenever you have to assign value to that identifier, then the value will be stored into the memory location. So in this example, it will go to occupy 2 bytes of memory space, and which will go and store a value into the memory location. So that's why identifiers cannot have a memory locations, and variables it contain a memory location. For storing of value of the variable, it required some memory locations. So that is a difference between variables and identifiers. So in identifiers, you have to use for assigning, you have to use a equal operator. So by using assignment operator or equal operator, you are assign the values to the identifiers. So then the identifier will become as a variables. And similarly, in other programming language like for writing of identifiers or for writing of variables in C programming, you have to use a data type. So whereas in Python you don't use a data type. So whereas in Python you don't use a data type of the identifier. So directly you have to write a and is equal to, by using a assignment operator or equal operator, you have to assign the value to the identifier. Then the identifier will become as a variables. I hope you'll be understanding what I am saying. So now let us see the next one, reference to the objects. So how will go reference to the objects? So if you want refers to the objects like class objects, class type of objects, like it is a integer type, or it is a float type, or it is a string data type, or it is a tuple object, or it is a set dictionary, and so on. So then you have to use a type function. So if you refer the objects of a class objects as a type is integer type or float type or string data type or tuple or dictionary, then you have to use a type function. So the type function is refers to the objects of the class name. So for example, I will write the function type followed by 10. So 10 is a integer type. It is an integer type of value. So then after execution of this line, then it will showing a class object. So it is a class object and followed by the type of the variable is integer type. So that is called it, the type function to determine an object class name. So here the object class name is a integer type. The object class name is a integer type in this example. So let us execute in a Jupyter notebook. So for example, I will write type and followed by 10. Then I will execute this code. Now it will showing as a integer type. So it is a integer type of value. Or I will write a is equal to 10, and I want uh, print type of a. So it is the type of A is a integer type, and it is a type. It is a class type of objects. So I will write one more time. A is equal to 10 and print followed by type of A. Print followed by type of A. Now see here. So what is a class object? The type will be integer type. The class object, the type will be integer type. So it is the integer type of the class object. So by using a type function, we want to know whether the class object is which type, whether it is an integer type or string type, or it is a tuple, dictionary, set, and so on. So let us see one more time. So A is equal to hello. So in this time I will use a string. Then I want to print. So print followed by type of A. So what is the type of A now here? So in this time the type of A value A is a string data type. So and it is a class object type is a string data type. So that is the meaning for uh, reference to the objects in Python. So by using a type function, you have to reference to the objects of the function in Python. So next here I am using a greet. Greet is equal to hello world. So print followed by greet. Then I got the output is hello world. After that I want to know what is the type of greet. So the type of greet is a class object. It is a string data type. So that will be for type function. So next one is already you will be know Python is a interpreted programming language, and Python is object oriented programming language, or Python is a dynamically and strongly typed programming language. So why because you don't mention, you don't have a, or you don't define the type of a variable. So why Python is a dynamically typed programming language? So because you don't define a type of the variable in the Python programming. So that's why this variable can be called as a dynamic variable. So why? Because you don't know whether it is a integer type or a float data type or string data type. So based on the value, then only will be know it is integer type or it is a string data type or it is a float data type, and so on. So in this example, I'm using x is equal to 100. Then I want display what is the type of x. So the type of x will be class object. It is an integer type. And similarly, x is equal to hello world and type of x. Then it will go display class object. It is a string data type. So why? Because Python is a dynamically typed programming language. It's not required to mention the data type. But if you know what is the type of the uh, variable, then you have to use a type function. By using a type function, you want to know whether it is a integer data type or string data type or a tuple or dictionary, and so on. And next one is uh, in this example, I want perform some of the x and y value. So I want perform some of the x and y value. So in this example, the plus operator is going to acting as a addition of two numbers. So let us execute the above code. So x is equal to 5 and y is equal to 10. Then x plus y. Then I will write x plus y. So the x plus y value is 15 now here. So similarly, I will use x is equal to hello and y is equal to world, w world. Then I want perform x plus y. Then now see here. So in this time, the plus operator is going to acting as a concatenation operation. So it will go and add the two strings. So whereas in this operation, the plus operator is going to adding of two numbers. So adding of 5 plus 10 will get the result value is 15. So whereas in this time, I am passing a strings, then it will going to perform, the plus operator is going to perform a concatenation operation. So based on the operation, the plus is going to perform addition of the two digits, or based on the operation, the plus is going to perform concatenation of the two strings. So depending upon the kind of the variable. So depending on the kind of the variable, the plus operator can be used as a sum, as well as the plus operator can be used as a concatenation operations. So next one is the identity of the objects. So what is the identity? So identity is nothing but where where the variable can be stored into the memory, and what is the memory address on that location. So where the variable can be stored into the memory location, and what is the address of the variable. So if you want to know address of the variable, then you have to use the id function. So by using a id function, that is called identity of the objects. By using this function, you want to know memory address in Python. So whereas in C programming, for printing of a address of the for printing of a address of the variable, you have to use a printf function, and printf and followed by personal d, and followed by comma, let us take address of a. So then it will go on to display where the value will be stored into the memory location. For example, let us assume that a value will be 10, and whenever the a value will be 10, which will be stored into the memory, it contains some address. Let us assume that it is a 2050 memory address. So in C programming, if you want to print the memory address of the variable, you have to use a address followed by variable name. Then it will go and produce the output is 2050. So instead of printing a value of the variable, which will go and print address location, where the variable can be stored the value in memory location on that particular address, which will going to print in our C programming. So whereas in Python, by using id function, you have to print the memory address. Whereas in Python, by using id function, you have to print the address of the variable. So for example, in this example, I am writing x is equal to 10 and followed by id of x. So where the memory the value of x will be stored into the memory location. On that memory location, it contains some memory address. So that address is going to printed as a output. So let us execute this code in a Jupyter notebook. So open the Jupyter notebook, and have to type x is equal to 100, and after that you have to use id function and print the x. Now see here, so what is the address of the variable x? So the address of the variable x, which will going to store in this location. So on that location, the value 100, which will be stored into the memory location. So if you want to know memory address where the variable can be stored into the memory, then you have to use the id function. So C programming, whereas in C programming, you have to use the address followed by variable name for printing of the memory location. So next one, x is equal to 100 and id of x. Then I got this number. Then I will be assigned x is equal to string data type. Then I will write id of x. So for the first time, it will go and print one address location, that is x value will be 100. On that address location, the memory address will be some like number 879106207. So whereas if the x is equal to string data type, so then the x value will be printed this type. So that means if a variable value change, the id will be also updated. So if the variable values are changes, so in this time I am writing integer, here I am writing a string. So that will be the variable is a change here. So that's why the id will be also updated. So next one, multiple variables with the same id are assigned to the same literal values. So for example, x is equal to 100 and id of x, then it will go written this number, and y is equal to x. So I'm assigning x value to the y. Then I want to know what is the id of or what is the memory address of y. Then it will return the same address location. The x value and y value will be pointing to the same memory location. That's why it will print the same id number. And z is equal to 100, z is equal to 100, then it will go print id of z. Then in this time I will print it the same address location. So same address location, on that address location it will be assigned z value also. So that means that, so multiple variables with the same id are assigned to the same literal value or same memory value. I hope you are understanding what I am saying. So multiple variables with the same ID are assigned to the same literal value. So this is example for multiple variables with the same ID. So next one, assignment of multiple variables. So I will go and assign multiple values to the variables. So in Python, if you want assign multiple values to the variables like this. So x comma y comma z is equal to 10 comma 20 comma 30. So assignment of multiple variables. So I am assigning x as a 10 and y as a 20 and z as a 30. So whereas in C programming, you don't have a assignment of multiple variables. So you don't write, you don't use these type of statements in C programming. So whereas in Python, many variables and assign values to each one in a single statement. So for example, x is equal to 10. You have to write x comma y comma z is equal to 10 comma 20 comma 30. So that means multiple assignments. Multiple assignments can be possible in Python. And similarly, in the above example, I assign only integer numbers. So now in this time, I will assign x is a integer type, and y is a string data type, and z is a boolean data types. So that will be also possible. You have to assign for multi variables have multi values also. So not only same values, you can assign multi variables have multi values also. So for example, x value will be as an integer type, and y is equal to hello, it is a string data type, and z is equal to true, and it is a boolean data types. So it will be also possible in Python. So for example, let us execute this code in the Jupyter notebook. So x comma y comma z is equal to 10 comma 20 comma 30. So execute, and I will print type of x. So I want to know what is the type of x. So the type of x value is a integer data type. And if you want print type of y, so if you want print type of y, so what is the type of y? So it is also a integer data type. And if you want print type of z, so it will go and print type of value with integer data type only. That means x, y, z are integer data types. So for example, if I change uh, 20 as a hello, so hello, then I want to execute one more time. So execute one more time, or I will execute only single line. So it will take same value. Okay. Or I will write separately. So x comma y comma z is equal to 10 comma hello comma 30. So or I will write in double quotes. So then I want print print type of y. So what is the, now I want to know what is the type of y value. So now what is the type of y here? So it is a string data type. I hope you will be understanding what I am saying. You can assign multiple variables to multi values also. So in this example, I am assigning x as an integer data type, that is a 10, and y as a string data type, and z as a integer data type. So for example, I will write z as a float value 30.4. Then I want to print a z value. So what is the z value? I want to know what is the z value. So then I want to print followed by type of z. So now see here, the type of the class object is a float data type. So that is a z value which will go and store float data type, that is a 30.4. So in Python we can assign multiple variables. For multiple variables, you have to assign multi values. So this is another example, x value 10 and y value string data type, and z value is true, that is a boolean data type. Then I want to know what is the type of x, y and z. Then I will be use a type function, then type of x, then it will be produce the integer data type, and type of y, then it will going to give the output is a class object, it is a string data type, and type of z, it is a class object, it is a boolean data type. So true or false belongs to boolean data types. So that's why it will going to give the output is for z class object, and it is a boolean data types. And if you have any doubts up to now, you can post your query in the chat box. So any doubts up to now, please post your query in the chat box. So let us see one more topic, that is variable types in Python. So that will be already know in any programming language, like the different types of variables are like local variables and global variables. So what is the local variables? Declare the variables inside of the function, then the variable is called as a local variables. So you have to declare the variables inside the function. So then the variable is called as a local variables. Then the scope or lifetime of the variables within the block only. So for example, in C programming, you can declare the variables in uh, inside the function like a void main. So void, we have to use a main function for writing of a C programming. So void main, and followed by open and closing curly brackets. So in between open and closing curly brackets, you have to declare the variables like int a is equal to 10. So then the lifetime of the variable, that is a is within the block only, or the scope of the variable a will be within the block only. So whenever the program will be come out this block, then the lifetime or the scope will be expire in programming language. So not only C programming, in Python also you can declare the variables inside the function only. So inside the function, you can declare the variables, then the variable is called as a local variables. Then the lifetime will be within the block only, or the scope will be within the block only. So whenever the program will be come out that block, then the lifetime of the variables will be expire. So that is called as a local variables. So what is a local variable? Declare the variables inside the function. Then the variable is called as a local variable, and the lifetime or the scope will be within the block only. So for example, in Python, I declared the variables by using a def function, by using a def keyword. So def stands for definition. That function definition is add. So I'm using a function definition is add and followed by colon. So in Python, you have to use the function like this by using a def keyword, and inside the function I declared a equal 20, b equal 30, and c is equal to a plus b. Then I want print sum is equal to followed by c value. So then I will call the calling the function, I will calling the function add. So whenever I will call this add function, then it will goes to the called function. that is a function definition. Then it will go to assign a value 20, b value 30, and it will go to substitute in the place of a and b. Then it will go to store the resultant value into c. Then the c value is going to printed. So that is about local variables. So whereas in global variables, so you have to declare the variables outside the function. You have to declare the variables outside the function. Then the variable is called as a global variables. So for example, I declare the variables outside the function now. So previously I declared the variables inside the function, whereas now I declared the variable outside. So that's why the x is equal to 101 is a global variable. So it is a global variable. Why? Because I declared that x value outside of the function. So that's why this variable is called as a global variable. So if it is a global variable, the lifetime or the scope will be entire the program execution. So after completion of this execution, then only the lifetime will be expired. So otherwise the lifetime will be there until the program completion its execution. So that is called global variables. So in Python one more advantage is there. So that is for example, if you want to use this outside the variable inside of the function. So actually you don't use outside the data within the inside of the function. So whereas in Python there is one of the feature is called you can use global data inside the function also, like local variable. The global variable can be going to acting as a local variable. Will going to access, if you want access outside the data for inside of the function, then you have to use a global keyword. So by using this global keyword, you can access the outside the data. So in this example, I want access the outside of the data, that is x is equal to 101 in my inside the function. So actually it is not possible in other programming language, whereas in Python it will be possible by using a global keyword. By using a global keyword, we have to use that outside the value inside the function. I hope you'll be understanding what I'm saying. So in a C programming, it is not possible. You have to use a global variable within the inside the function. So whereas in Python, it will be possible. You have to use value of the variable inside the block only. Inside the block. If you want to use inside of the block, then you have to use a global keyword. So with help of a global keyword, you can access the global data inside the function. I hope you'll be understanding what I'm saying. So that's why for printing of x inside the function, it will go and print 101. Actually 101 is a global declaration. It is a global value. So if you want to access this value inside the function, then you have to use a global keyword and followed by variable. And I want print x value. Then I got the output will be 101. So that means inside the function it will go and access 101 value. So after that I am writing x is equal to welcome to Python. Then I will be call, I will print the x value now. So then it will go and print a welcome to Python. So next I will, this is a calling function. I want print of x. So in print of x, the calling function, it will go and take only local variable value only. It cannot access outside the data. If you want access, you can use the global keyword. So that's why this calling function is going to access welcome to Python variable, whereas in inside the function it will go and access outside the data. So that's why it will go and print the x value is 101. After that it will be changed as x value will be welcome to Python. That's why it will go and print welcome to Python. And after that in calling function I am going to use the print of x. Then it will go and take the x value will be welcome to Python only. I hope you'll be understanding what I am saying. So that is about global variable in Python. So next one, delete variables. So delete variables. So by using a del keyword, you have to delete the variables. You have to delete the variables. That is called deallocate the memory space in Python. In Python, if you want deallocate the memory space, you have to use the del keyword. So for example, I want delete x. I want delete x. Then I will delete. Then it will be deleted. So if you try to print, if you type try to print what is the type of x, then what happen? It will going to give a error. So why? Because I already deleted the x value. I already deleted the x value with the help of a del keyword. So that's why if you try to print the what is the type of x, so the x is not available in the memory location. That's why it will going to print the name error. I hope you'll be understanding what I'm saying. So after deleting of a variable x, it will be deleted from the memory. So if you try to print the same variable, it will going to produce the error. So the error name is name error. That is called the x is not defined. Why? Because already deleted. If you are trying to print the same variable, it will showing a name error. What is the name error here? The x is not defined. So that is about del keyword. By using a del keyword, you have to delete the variables in Python. So in this example, I deleted here x is equal to 6. I'm assigning x is equal to 6, and after that I print x value. Then it will go and print x value 6. After that, uh, it will be using a del keyword, del of x. Then it will be deleted. Then I want to try to print x value. If you try to print x value, then it will showing a name error. Why? Because you are deleted the x variable in our program. So if you are trying to print the text value, it will produce the name error. So that is about. So that's all about today. So that is about identifiers, variables, and object reference to the objects, and identity of the objects. After that, assignment of variables in assignment of multiple variables in Python, and after that, the local variable and global variables. So in Python. So that's all about today class. So in the next class, we'll going to discuss about keywords in Python. So if you have any doubts up to now, so can post your query in the chat box. Okay, for example, so I'm not tried the combination of integers and characters in Python. So let us try what it will going to produce the output. I hope it will be possible. Uh, Anyway, you have to try. I will going to whether it is combination of integers and characters in Python. So if you have any query, please can post your query in the chat box. So let us execute your query. So any other doubts? So any other doubts? If you have, so any other doubts? If you have. So it will take a time. Okay, so in the next class we will going to discuss about keywords and letters in Python. So I will tell you later, ma. So it will taking a time. Jupyter notebook is not loaded properly. So for example, x comma y comma z. So x comma y comma z is equal to 10 comma, or you are asking some characters. So 10 ABC. So 10 ABC comma 20 comma 30.4. Then I want to know what is the type of x. So what is the type of x? So let us execute this code. So it is not possible now. So the combination of integers and characters is not possible. So the combination of integers and characters is not possible for assigning of variables in Python. So is there any other doubts or other query? If you don't have any other doubts, that's all about the today class, and we will going to meet in the next session. Have a nice day.